neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
So good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. How be ye?
Oh, we're doing fucking fantastic. I mean, we're doing fantastic. We got our new show.
You're a little pumped up.
I tell you what, we got our new, well, it's this energy drink.
It is.
We got our new show.
This Week in Music.
That's right. And you guys out there, we
already loving it.
Thank you enough.
It barely came off the computer machine where you
and
edited
you guys
it,
are
and you guys are already eating it up.
Yeah, man,
it's awesome.
And believe me, I went back and listened to my screw ups in the edits, and boy, I've made a lot of changes.
I did too.
Well, you weren't as bad as I. I'm thinking maybe I should leave mine in. Because then it will become a really interesting show. What will Mick say this week?
That's always the fun part of most shows.
Yes.
So that's why people listen to Stern.
There you go. But thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Very much.
And make sure that you're visiting the old ampsandaxescast.com.
That's right.
On there, we got the social media. We also have that beautiful Amazon banner. You click on that guy, you buy your stuff, and you don't have to pay any more. They give us a little kickback, keep the lights on.
Mm-hmm. And pretty soon you'll be seeing drones dropping at your front door.
Exactly. So. Maybe robots with them.
Could be.
And then right underneath of the episode is our goodie from up north.
Our Bud Goodie?
Yeah.
Jason Sadidas?
Yes. And he gives us the...
Lick Quicks?
Yes.
That's right.
So today's opposite day. No, but
That's
he is, God almighty, is he just... He did this last one is like, it was like, well, I've heard Ingve, and that is faster.
Quite possibly.
He is just blazing on that thing, man.
Possibly. He must be in he must be in a new magnetic field or something.
Fresher air.
It's fresher air. That's right. That's what it is. That's what it is.
So I was out on Instagram and I tried to find it. Why do they do this to me? Anyway, I couldn't find the actual post, but I do remember it. And it was labeled guitarist versus DJ. Mm-hmm. And when you go, it's a video, and when you go into it, there's Paul Gilbert from one of the Mr. Big live videos in Japan back when he had long hair, playing those Ibanez RG series of his own, the PGM whatever, right? And he is just blazing, and it's all alternate picking in Paul Gilbert style, right? Just as articulate as could be. I mean, it is just a barrage. It sounds like a phalanx on a battleship. It's just, but it's like you can hear every note. So then we get to Skrillex, who's the DJ kid, whatever, right?
Okay.
He's in a room full of people. He's standing on the console, and he has some kind of device. And the one guy said it sounds like a food processor. It's ready to blow up because instead of actual notes being played on an instrument, it's just this buzzing sound.
He's just, what is he doing?
He's making it do that whole, that
manipulating pre-recorded music is what he's doing.
Well, that whatever that tone is that they generate in the EDM stuff, it's like that, and especially his music, it's got that where it's like, it sounds like a cascading something. I don't even know, right? So the comments were the best, though. And one of the guys said, he's not even a DJ. It's something else. And I'm just going, why would you argue?
EDM performer? Is that what they were saying?
Look,
Something like
takes
that?
a little bit. It takes some knowledge, especially to be able to take what they do and put it down to make it actually sound like music.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no real humans involved except for the guy
that's manipulating everything.
Yeah,
right.
putting the whatever they are on the the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say inside the doll.
Right.
Once you learn that, you're in.
Right.
You just have to get your creative mind and start coming up with different sounds, paste them in certain ways. It still takes that is the creative part. But then after that, when you're at the club, there's no creativity.
It's kind of right. It's kind of, unless you manipulate it again at the club,
which he
in
does
real
a little
time, which
bit.
they probably do.
Yeah.
Sure, of course. I mean,
Sort of
that's
like the
that's
guy
why
who's
they get paid money to
scratching records.
Right. That's why they get paid money to come in there and to twist things live.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, it's a little bit similar. And I'm not saying this in any derogatory way to the profession that I'm going to compare it to, but it's a little bit similar to like a record producer or mixer engineer kind of thing, where they're taking sounds and they're manipulating them. Now, granted, in a slightly different way, but they're manipulating sounds.
Yeah,
and but the thing is that the producer or the engineer is not the musician. Just like Skrillex couldn't really be considered a musician because he's taking material that someone else has produced and remanipulating it.
Oh, and he manipulates the piss out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he really steps on it hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
it's a different animal. It's a completely different animal.
There was a lot of comments in there that... and I love these because I've heard Corolla say this. He goes, "It's music made for stupid people. You have nothing to think about. There's nothing. There's no heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Even the voices that they use are this weird sample-ish kind of enhanced thing. They're not even real voices,
right? And there's no real lyric to it.
No. They got these little blurps that come in and out, and
blurps. That's a good one.
Yeah,
blurps.
blurps.
I don't know, whatever they call them. You know what? That's enough for EDM.
Yeah,
that's enough for EDM.
Hey. Before we go any further, though, we got to plug the show, man. We got to plug...
the new show.
That's right.
The new show. This Week in Music.
I
just said
you guys check this out on Tuesdays because there's a good chance I'm going to screw up talking. I'm actually reading. My reading skills are...
Right.
Yeah.
No, but it's I think you're going to enjoy it. It's pretty cool. It's
we come some of the stuff we just are blown away by.
Right. The research that we found.
The James Brown story was the best.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, but if you haven't heard the first one, go back, listen to it.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. We had a good time doing it. I think you're going to have a good time listening to it.
Yeah, man.
It's nowhere near as long and involved as the Amps and Axes cast.
No, it's rapid fire.
Boom, 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 boom.
Exactly.
Go check it out. This Week in Music.
Yeah,
I
man.
think you're going to like
Every
it.
Tuesday.
We're going to keep doing it.
Yeah,
and,
we are.
Because it's interesting and fun facts for us too.
Yeah.
There's mostly musical facts, but there's some historical content.
We kind of talked about it at the
eventually.
beginning there, but you gotta check it out.
Yeah, you do. It's pretty cool. It's pretty
because
cool.
we actually read.
Right, we do. And
it's not me just pulling it out of my ass like normal.
There's words involved, real and written on paper and everything.
Well, screen.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, but you know how that goes. Anyway.
That's right. Anyway, okay. So check that out, and
you got one thing.
I don't know. I don't know if it's
I always bring negative.
I don't know if it's worth mentioning. It's just Kiefer Sutherland is now a roots country music
I saw that.
recording artist. I don't know how it seems like he's back into it because from what I just glanced at a little bit, he was into music long before acting, and he made his mark as an actor, and now it goes I think I'm going to get back into country music. So he's he might be touring in a town near you. Who knows?
I often say it's things like, how do I say this? I give him my hat's off to him to give it a try. You know what I mean? To really go out there and try to do that. It's sort of like the Johnny Depp and things like guys like that.
Well, I mean, he does have
the Bacon Boys and
the Bacon Brothers,
the Bacon Brothers,
right?
Bacon Boys,
the Bacon Boys.
See what I mean?
They're down the street. They make great breakfast.
It's the Bacon Boys.
That's right.
But I often look at things like that, and then I remember Michael Jordan to go play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really work out for him.
But you know what?
But you know what I mean?
These guys,
sort of like
when they're not filming,
hey, look,
they need an outlet, and
it's
and he's got a name, and people are going to come out and see him to see what he's about. And
it's Kiefer money. If
right.
he wants to put a band together, it's like Billy Bob and Johnny Depp.
Absolutely,
he needs to put a band together.
Right?
Who the hell's going to say anything?
Or it's Johnny Depp and Slash and what?
Joe Perry.
Joe Perry, right?
Yeah, and Tommy from Alice Cooper's band.
Oh, how
about that?
That's right. Well, there's a tie-in for you.
That's called the Hollywood Vampires, by the way.
That's right. And we
when Joe isn't passing out on stage.
Oh God,
what the hell?
It sucks getting old. It really does.
It sure does.
It really does.
And if you listen to This Week in Music, there are a lot of people who really had a bad fall, man. Whew.
Yes.
Some of those, I'm like, oh my God.
But let's go back.
Change gears.
We don't have one of the vampires with us, but we do have someone else that's associated with Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah, we do.
Today, our guest is one of what is currently 3 guitarists in Alice Cooper, and I believe he's probably been with him the longest.
Out of those 3, yes.
Out of the 3, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break, and I'm looking forward to this. We'll take a break. We'll come back with our guest of the week, guitarist for Alice Cooper, Mr. Ryan Roxie.
Hello, this is Andy Bassford. You're listening to Amps and Axes, and you've made a good choice.
All right, and we are back as promised, because we always come back as promised, with our guest of the week, guitarist for the one and only Mr. Alice Cooper, Ryan Roxie. Ryan, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. Very
awesome.
Cool.
Wow, he's got the deep voice. You should be doing some singing in the band, some baritone fills.
I'm using my best podcast voice that I can, actually.
That's awesome, man. Sounds great. Thanks for taking the time. I know you had to go eat first, so thanks for eating and getting on the podcast with us.
This whole tour is not anything but time, but I'm filling up almost every single spot, and I think that's the best thing to do when you're on the road. Is everyone always says, I get so bored on the road, there's nothing to do. And it's like, no, when I get on the road, that's when I fill up my schedule. And it's when I get home is when I really want nothing to do anything, but out here on the road, I'm busy as hell.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out what keeps you busy as hell on the road in a little bit. But I'm going to do what I like to do with most of our guests, and we're going to get in the Wayback Machine and find out where and when Mr. Ryan Roxie was born and raised, and what got you into this crazy and fantastic world of music. So give us a little history, man.
I was born a poor black child.
I know that movie. I know that movie.
Johnson. But no, you know what? In today's world, you can't even do the jerk sort of jokes, can you? Because for one, people don't remember the movie The Jerk. They only remember Steve Martin as being, serious. He used to be funny, folks. He was funny, and if you ever get a chance to watch a VHS copy of The Jerk, you should, then you'll get that last joke. Yes. But I was born in Northern California, Bay Area, amazing place to grow up on AM radio, back when AM radio played, all the coolest music, and you'd hear like Cheap Trick next to the Doobie Brothers, next to the Bee Gees. So that's kind of where I grew up, Northern California in the 70s.
Wow. That was it's still
Have
a
I
lot.
Done this before?
No. There's still a lot of AM going on then, because
yeah. Well,
I guess it was a time where they were both actually pretty still heavily playing rock music, both AM and FM formats.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like where FM really branched itself apart, and when you started getting album-oriented rock and stuff, where the singles were still, I still remember hearing Aerosmith "Dream On" for the first time on an AM radio station coming through, my little clock radio that I would wake up to, and just be blown away by by bands like that, and the fact that Northern California is a cool music place to grow up. It really was.
Oh yeah. So when did the music bug bite you? Was there any? Was your family musical? Did any of that enter into your music?
I mean, my mom played drums in the marching band, and my dad played trumpet somewhere along the line. And I think I actually tried to play. I tried to start out on trumpet, but that didn't work for me. And then I did have a drum kit growing up. Something to just hit as hard as I could. And there was always a guitar on the couch. So, and I didn't really know how to play it. I knew how to air guitar it, and I knew the Beatles albums that I liked. It really, I could do some good air guitar into it or with that. And eventually it hit me and took it real serious about 11 years old, I'd say.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. I picked up a guitar when I was 5 and had, I'm embarrassed to say, but not so embarrassed. But one of the first songs I ever learned was "Puppy Love" by the Osmond Brothers. I think it was Donny Osmond. and
I think that's a first for this show.
Yeah.
So people say they have heroes like Keith Richards, and it's true. He's one of my heroes. But my first hero was Keith Partridge.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, the Partridge Family, I mean, that was one of those shows where, people were playing, it looked like they were playing.
Right.
And
it looked like they were a family.
And, you didn't see much of live stuff like that, like, quote unquote rock stuff going on a TV.
Oh, the Monkees.
Yeah, but that was, it was years before, too, right? Wasn't it?
Was it Monkees, Banana Splits?
Yeah, Banana Splits, man.
I always wanted to be that elephant or whatever it was.
Yeah, those dudes were. The funny thing is about
the Partridge Family, and growing up being influenced by that whole genre of TV rock and roll, is that fast forward to right now. When we travel as a band with the Alice Cooper Band, it's kind of like the Partridge Family in a sense, because we have become sort of a family. Alice and his wife, Cheryl, she's in the show. She travels with us, Chuck and the bass player, and I and Alice's assistant and Coop and Cheryl, his wife. We all just take one bus. Before this tour, and this is the first time it's happened, we would all travel on one bus. The whole band with Alice and his wife. Now they've actually broken it up into 2, so I guess we're living large right now.
Nice.
Well, yeah.
I'm enjoying it while we have it, because who knows, next tour might go back to one bus.
It's true. You never know. Are you playing bigger sheds and things this tour than last? Has it gotten
actually this
bigger?
Tour has been an Alice Cooper headline, sort of. They're billing it as an evening with Alice Cooper, so it definitely has a lot deeper, more deep cuts, a lot more music that for an avid Alice Cooper fan, they're going to dig it, because they get to see and hear every era that Alice has ever been in, and he's been in so many eras. That's why I love playing guitar for him, because I never. It's not that I just get to play the songs that I've written with him before, because we do some of those as well in that era. But there's so many different great bands that he's put together over the years, and I've been able to play those parts of all these great guitar players. So this tour is I would say more theaters and like 5,000-6,000 seat places, whereas the last 2 previous years we were playing with Motley Crue. We were a special guest for the Motley Crue's last tour, so we played pretty much every sort of bucket list arena in 2014 and 15 that I ever wanted to play. I'd never played the Garden until I got to play it with Motley Crue and Alice Cooper, so that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Nice. Well, I'm going to back up a little bit again and find out when you said you picked up guitar at 5. You actually started getting into it about 11, I think you said. When did you start putting together some other friends and making a collective noise?
Right around that time. Right around that time, because it was it was just the bands that we basically had posters on our wall. And back when you listen to an album and you take out the album and stare at it from the cover to cover, and
hell yeah.
I still remember doing my homework and and not really doing my homework, just listening to the record of Cheap Trick live at Budokan, and just going, I want to be like those guys on that album cover. And then the cool thing is, like, years later, we get to tour with the guys with Cheap Trick, and it really is like sort of imagining your reality. So that's what we did, and I had a bunch of friends that were that I grew up with, and I still talk to today. I mean, I'm still really good friends with the first drummer of my the very first band that we put together, called Starfire. Yeah,
wow.
Starfire. Wow. I said it. Hashtag Starfire.
Starfire. Well, it's funny because I guess that's a thing that a lot of musicians do, because I did that exact thing. I'd be doing homework, but here's the irony. I had Killers. I had Alice Cooper's album Killers, and nice. Under My Wheels, just the way that album started. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh man, because at that time, School's Out or Only Women Bleed, one of those songs, that was all was on the radio, from Alice at that time, that got to play around this area. When I got
Incidentally, every single one of those songs that you just mentioned, we're currently playing in this tour as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So pretty cool. So you can go back and listen to which ones you mentioned, but every single one, I was like, oh yeah, that's song number 2. Oh yeah, that's the midway through the set. So,
but when I got that album, I was like, oh my God, this catalog is amazing. And then $1 Billion Babies, and it was just, then it was like,
yeah, it's on.
But it was the original guitar players that back in those days.
And I was going to get there.
Bruce, Glenn Buxton,
and Michael Bruce.
I was actually lucky enough to meet Glenn before he passed away, and to this day, every tour we see Michael Bruce at least once a tour.
Wow!
And I guess it was last year. I think it was. One of the guys wrote a book and was having a book signing party. I think it was Dennis Dunaway had a book, and they did a book signing party somewhere in Texas at a really cool bookstore / record store. Yes, they still do exist. And it was in Texas, and we just happened to be in the same town at the same time. So Alice and I went down there, and we actually sort of reformed. I got to sit in with the original guys of that band. We did like 3 or 4 songs, so I was getting to play the part of Glenn Buxton that night, and it was surreal, but so friggin' cool.
Did you have an SG?
It sounded so, I guess the only way you could say it sounded so original, because Alice sings those original songs, because he's with those original guys. He sings them like he sang them on exactly how he did on the album.
That's so cool. And did you use an SG? Because that was the guitars they used, right?
That's exactly what I used, a Gibson SG. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Now Tommy uses the SGs in his arsenal, right?
Tommy has a bunch of Gibsons out. I have.
You have a bunch of Gibsons too, right?
Tommy Hendrickson is guitarist on stage left. For those of you keeping track at home, as well as Nita Strauss. But Tommy is a Gibson guy as well as I am. He also has some other guitars out with him. Myself, I'm a little bit more of a Gibson purist, because I always say, people always ask me, what do you suggest for getting a good tone? And I say, well, the recipe for rock and roll hasn't changed for all these years. For me, it's a Marshall amp and a Gibson guitar, and as little in between as possible.
There you go.
Yeah.
So my Gibson arsenal is pretty cool now. Last year I was bringing out this thing I called the Gibson Big 6, which they have 6 iconic designs, I feel. The Les Paul, which is sort of the granddaddy of them all.
Sure.
The SG, which is a sort of a step brother of the Les Paul, if you know your history, which I know you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
The 335, ES 335, which is also in that sort of Les Paul family. Mm-hmm. Flying V, Explorer,
nice,
and
Firebird.
Firebird.
Uh-huh.
So that's the big 6. But this year, I brought one extra one called the Magnificent 7, and it's a double neck Gibson, like the one that Paige played.
The 135. Cool. Right?
Is that a 135?
Is that an ES 135 or something like that? Or what is it?
It's the double neck SG.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got a
weird number.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. It's but yes, that's a beast of a guitar. I'm sure you're. How much does it weigh? Is it coming about the Les Paul weight or a little bit heheavier?
Yeah, I did have to train for that before the tour started.
Wow.
I think it's called the EDS 1275 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't it like that? Yeah.
I'll find it right now while we're talking.
Double neck.
Yeah.
But I mean, the silly thing is, like, people always ask me questions when I do these Gibson clinics, like about the guitars and how they got their name. And Les Paul is pretty obvious, but you know, do you guys know the whole story about how the ES335 got its name?
No.
The SG is solid guitar.
Yep.
Solid guitar, you got that.
Because Les Paul is like, I'm not putting a name on it.
The ES335, and everyone always asks me, well, what's the 335 stand for? Well, in 1958, the year that guitar was released, the guitar cost $335.
Oh my God!
Know, I think I did read that somewhere. I think I did.
$335.
Right.
Yeah, get one from the custom shop today.
Well, I was going to say, if there's any listeners out there that want to trade in their 1958 335, I'll give you a brand spanking new one, straight across.
Straight up.
Yeah, you don't want that old thing.
No.
You don't want that old thing.
And you got an Explorer.
I'm losing on the deal. Just so you know.
And you got that Explorer, so there's a 58 Carina out there that you'd probably trade straight up too, right?
Actually, I love those. Carina. It is actually the cool thing about this is that Explorer that I have. I found it was an Epiphone, because they had it at Epiphone. It was a Carina. It looked like exactly like the Gibsons. I bring that Epiphone on there because I want people to hear that the Epiphone can compete. Because a lot of times the Epiphone gets this sort of younger brother. Sort of has that little scrappy younger brother mentality, But they sound killer, and it keeps pace right up with all my Gibsons. So I'm a big supporter of Epiphone as well.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did get that kind of baby brother, rap a while back, but I think a lot of the stuff that they're making now, I mean, the import stuff, the quality of the import stuff has come up exponentially over the past 10 years or so.
Well,
and a lot of guys who just change the pickups, you got a Gibson.
Well, not even that now. Look at your hollow body that you bought from the Gary Clark Jr.
The black and blue.
Yes, and the Tony Iommi and the Joe Bonamassa models. They all come with burst buckers.
They do. That's true. That's true.
There you go.
So
I'll put that up to anything. In like any 330. Well, not a vintage 335, but any of the currently made stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Plays awesome too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
One of my favorite 335s that I don't have it out on this tour, but I love it. It's Larry Carlton's signature design called Mr. 335 or something like that, and it's got this thing called the Carlton burst, which is a type of finish that is different from any other sort of cherry burst or sunburst or whatever you want to call it. The finish on it is just immaculate. So yeah, I play Mr. 335 as well.
Nice.
It's just hard to play Alice Cooper licks on that one.
The Alice Cooper licks are great with But the thing is, my 335, because I use JCM 800 Marshalls, and I don't use too much gain. I use enough so that it gets the point across, but at the same time, I don't use the gain so hot that I never have a problem with feedback.
Wow.
Ever. Yeah.
Really?
So it's a really cool setup that, our guitar tech on stage, right, Warren, he's been so good at working with me on the tone over the last few years that I think we have a really good system going, and all the guitars sound pretty consistent. I always say you play the right guitar for the right song, and that's important. But sometimes, especially with this Alice show, you play the right looking guitar for the right song. Oh yeah. So like for instance, when we play like Poison in the set, it makes sense to play a flying V.
Sure.
It just does. And then when we play like a classic song like Under My Wheels, you mentioned earlier, the 335 comes in, real handy.
Wow. it's almost like you need to play something a little out of the box because there's 3 guitarists up there.
Absolutely.
And you really have to get some different tonalities happening, for everybody to come through and for it not to be too heavy in one type of tone and, lacking somewhere else. You can fill a huge sonic palette with 3 guitar players that are playing distinctly different
instruments. And they definitely
instruments.
do, because Nita has more of the modern, higher gain stuff.
Right.
And Ryan and Tommy are kind of in that classic rock thing, and it's got to sound like it's 70 feet tall.
Yeah.
Well, that's the biggest compliment I think that I ever hear, and it is a lot of credit goes to our front of house guy as well, because he's amazing, and he has a really hard job in like you said, separating those three tones, but he does a great job of getting my tone to sound like my sound, and when he rides the solos and pushes up the solos, I have my distinct tone as well as Nita when she does hers, but then he places them all back where they're supposed to be, and people tell me that. They go, it sounds like a wall of guitars, but you can hear each one of us.
That is so cool.
Individually. So I give James Woods, our front of house guy, a lot of credit for that. And
those cabinets are on stage?
Yeah,
wow.
They are.
Nice.
I use Marshall, Marshall 412s. And I think on this run, because we're playing theaters, I'm only using one cabinet. It's
beautiful.
And the thing is, it always looks nice when you have 3 or 4 different stacks behind you.
Sure.
The reality of it, and more, is that I'm actually playing more speaker cabinets than a lot of heavier rock bands out there. We've actually toured with a few of them there where there are no amps on stage.
Yeah, it's all
going.
Yeah, man.
Through the PA, and it's done. Whether it's a Fractal or whether it's any other modeling amp that's out there today. I mean.
Yeah, half of them are virtual, and some guys that are actually using real amps.
Stuck in a cabinet somewhere.
Yeah, they're in ISO boxes.
Yep.
You've really got to move a little bit
out
of
there
air
as well. And here's the thing, I totally get it. And certain venues that would actually, in certain situations, if you're doing any sort of tour that's on a club level, then definitely those make more than absolute sense to use it. But when you have the luxury of having, a guy like Alice Cooper, as your boss, and you have the luxury of playing some of these, bigger rooms, and you have that equipment, and you're playing the songs that were recorded on that equipment, why not just use the source? Go right to the source. And like I said, there's the reason why all those companies are great, and because they have good sounds, is because look at the sounds they're emulating.
Sure,
they're emulating the Marshall tone, or or any other amp that you sort of grew up listening to. So I always think of it as like, when the time comes and the situation calls for it, I'm more than open to checking out different types of rigs. But for me, like I said, my Les Paul, my trusty Les Paul through a Marshall amp, it gives me no problems. It never talks back to me. It only feedbacks.
And hopefully only when you want it to.
See,
when I want it to.
And this,
I like that. I have to add that in.
This is what we always say. And whenever you can push that air, take advantage of that, because even though those things, like you said, they sound really good, there's something different. There's always that one element that's always going to be different.
I mean, the optimal situation, I think, nowadays is to push enough air on stage for you to feel comfortable with your rig, and for it to talk back to each other, the guitar and the amp and everything, the player to feel happy. Any more than that is unnecessary and makes it a little bit harder for the FOH guy to get a really good mix, especially with 3 guitars.
And that was always me.
Yeah. If everybody can just get comfortable enough, push just enough air, and then leave the rest of it to the front of house guy, because the systems are so incredible nowadays. You don't need more than that. As long as you're happy, you're going to play well.
It was always turn the cabinet around. We're not putting a microphone in front of it.
Right.
I know. And here's the thing. I sort of didn't subscribe to in-ear monitors until I came back in 2012 into the Alice Cooper fold.
I was going to ask you if you were using in-ears.
Yeah, everybody in the band's on in-ears. Even Alice has one in-ear. He has one ear in, one ear out.
Wow.
But don't ask me. There's a lot of science involved in that, I guess. I don't know. But the thing is, for me, I had purchased a really expensive pair of in-ear monitors back in, the early 2000s, and it was like cutting edge stuff. And I ended up using them as earplugs because I just, because I it was the same old excuse that everyone uses, that all us old schoolers use that same thing. I gotta feel it. But when I came back in 2012, it's like, I don't have to feel it. I have to hear it. And I can hear it like it, when I can hear it and I can hear all the other instruments, it almost sounds like I'm playing to a record sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's the experience. I wish people could have my in-ear monitor experience at a show someday. Who knows? Maybe that someday will happen. But I switched over in 2012, and I think it's been great for the band because we were able to really turn down the stage volume and basically give the FOH guy a lot more control, which I think he's happy about.
Well, with 3 guitar players, he really can't be,
It can get cacophonous quickly.
It can't be like Ted Nugent.
Yeah, and good use of the word cacophonous as well.
Oh, well, thank you.
We try to put that in every show.
No, we don't.
Cacophonous Amps and Axes podcast.
That's right.
Cacophony.
We just talk over each other.
Just a lot of noise for your ears.
We just talk really loud over each other.
We'll do a show called Cacophony, and we'll just put up. We won't play cacophony. We'll just put up white noise.
Yeah. Well, we'll put
cacophony or damned.
Or damned.
Good.
We'll put infinite repeats on our voices and just keep talking.
There you go. That's a pretty good example of it. Yeah. So Ryan, I gotta find out where and when you got in with Alice and company. You had to have a history before that and something that led to that. So give us a little bit.
The whole story is this. I mean, everyone always talks about being at the right place at the right time, right? That's the age-old thing. Oh, where were you? Right place, right time. But in order to get to that right place at the right time, I had to play and be in so many wrong places over the years.
Of course.
And it didn't matter, what club. Sometimes, with my first band, Electric Angels, that I had, that my first band that we ever really toured the States with, sometimes we'd play bars where there was, pretty much the staff outnumbered the people in the bar. Wow. Staff and band, actually, way outnumbered the crowd. But at the same time, we just kept doing it. And you build relationships, you build friendships. And one of those friendships I had was with Gilby Clark. And we played in a band before he was in Guns N' Roses. We played in a band called Candy, which that's eventually became this band Electric Angels, I was just saying. But this band Candy, power pop bass band out of Los Angeles, California. We formed Electric Angels. Years later, Gilby forms a band called Kill for Thrills. And we remain friends over those years. Well, it turns out I come back to Los Angeles after living in New York for 5 years. I need a band to play in. Gilby asked me to play in a solo band. We do a couple of years of touring with Gilby's solo stuff, and Alice hears about it and says, hey, I like Gilby. I like this guy Ryan that he's playing with. Why don't we have those two guys maybe come down and try out for this new... I'm going to, Alice is saying to himself, I'm going to try a 1-year tour. That's how we were pitched it. It's a 1-year tour just to see if I want to actually continue to tour anymore after that. So Gilby goes, you know what? I can't do it. I have the obligations with my own record, my own solo career. But Roxie, I give you my blessing. You go down there and get the gig. So in 1996, I went into Mates Rehearsal, which is right in the Valley, and anybody that knows, old school rock and roll stories about rehearsal studios, Mates is it.
Yep.
Mates where so many bands started, and had the auditions there, and after all those wrong places, I had the right place at the right time, and I did the right audition, and Alice was actually there, and it was really cool. Alice Cooper, Bob Daisley, and Eric Singer on drums. I played Billion Dollar Babies, 18, and I think a little School's Out. And then the icing on the cake was I played Poison. And I got that pre-chorus right with the chords. I think that's what got me the gig. I didn't shred because I'm listening before the audition. I'm listening to all these other guys play that are some really named players. I think there was Warren DeMartini from Rat was there, a guitarist from Dream Theater, and Reb Beach obviously was there because he ended up being the first guitar player I played with in the Alice Cooper band. So all these guys are shredding it. And I'm thinking to myself, Alice already has his shredder. He doesn't need another shredder. He needs a rock and roller. And I'm going to be that guy. So I went in there and I just laid down the chords. And when it came time for my solo and very legato in 18, and it worked. And he obviously saw something that he liked, and we've had a friendship and a business relationship for the past on and off 20 years. And that 1 year tour, by the way, that was with the Scorpions that we did. We started touring with the Scorpions, a 1 year tour. Alice, whether I've been in the band or not in the band on some of those tours, he's toured every year since then consistently. So that's pretty cool.
Wow. I guess he decided that he liked to go back out on tour.
Yeah, I think so. But, he's the ultimate professional when it comes to performing. He doesn't go on late. He doesn't ever phone a show in. He never just goes through the motions. That's not his style. And after the show, he talks and does a meet and greet and is very gracious to his fans. So I always look up to him and learn. I always say I learned so much more than just music from Alice Cooper playing in his band.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, man. And he's had an arsenal of guys. I mean, Al Petrelli.
And girls, yeah, I know. At this point, it's guys and girls.
Yeah,
I mean, we've had
Orianthi and Nita, and
when I first joined back in 2012, Ori was playing, and now we have Nita. So he's gotten a lot of really high end and cool personality musicians.
Ryan, you've been there for a long time, brother. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, off and on for 20 years. Yeah, I mean, I've done some stuff in between. I did that Slash's Snake Pit record called Ain't Life Grand. I'm very proud of. I did about 4 albums of my own, and with Roxie 77 and a band called Dad's Porno Mag as well. And
I love that.
I played on an album that actually had a pretty big song on it with a artist named Tal Bachman. If you heard the song "She's So High," then that's my guitar playing coming on in that, and it's nice. It's been a cool ride. Like I said, it's one of those things. Man. At the end of the day, there's a lot of people scratching their head going, "Who the hell's Ryan Roxie? I don't know. I never heard of him." But it's like one of those things. If you hang around long enough, people do start to notice you. And I've just been one of those guys that's been in the trenches. I've been in the trenches of rock and roll, and knock on wood, and I'm going to do it again, like I always do. I still get to file my taxes as a musician at the end of the year, and I'm just thankful for that.
That's a cool thing, man.
That's great, and we've had a few people that say, be the guy that's easy to tour with.
Sure.
Don't be a
prima donna.
Don't be a jerk. Don't be a prima donna. Yeah, it's just
you know what? Being in a band is so much more than being a good musician.
Right.
Because that's a given. At that level, you're going to have to know your chops. You have to be a professional. But to really be in a working band, you have to know more about getting along with people and dealing with different personalities, because a lot of the guys and girls that you work with, everyone's unique and everyone has their own quirks. We all have our own little oddities that we use. So at the end of the day, to get 10 people on a bus, with 10 different personalities, you have to work with that. And that's way more important than knowing, your modes.
Absolutely. And the longer you wind up doing it, I think the longer that most people wind up doing it, the more accommodating they become to each other, and they know how to live life on the road. And,
absolutely. Every year passes with me being able to tour, you also get a bit more humble, and the things that used to seem bigger and in the terms of importance aren't so important anymore. It's not, it's so much of that stuff when you first are trudging your way up and clawing your way through rock and roll. It's so much is ego. And when you step back and look at it, you go, really? I actually freaked out over that. I freaked out over because my name wasn't as big as this name. And, it's all silly because at the end of the day, it's like, I just turned 50 and I get to play in a rock and roll band, jump around like a like a fool sometimes, but I love it. And people that come to see us really appreciate it, and I appreciate them. So that's the name of the game.
For people that are into rock and roll and into playing guitar, life really doesn't get much better, man.
No,
it doesn't. You got to do what you set out to do when you were a kid, and you're still able to do it. That's ridiculously cool.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, you don't know how that's going to play out at any given time,
right?
And then to have a 20-year on and off career like this with one guy, that Alice could take a crap on a plate and people would show up. I mean, honestly, it's Alice Cooper, right? I mean, he's a living...
It's not... Yeah, it sounds very Cheech and Chong. It doesn't sound so much.
But you know what I'm saying is that it's Alice, and he's an established icon.
Absolutely.
In the music industry. I mean, the guy, he probably overcame one of the biggest things that you could, which was, alcoholism. And it has... didn't fade away. He's been there throughout, all that turmoil in the early days, and then literally just relaunched this career and was in, Wayne's World 2?
Yep. Yeah.
And just has put out good stuff. And his show is always still, with the guillotine and the hangings. What is he died 9 times or something like that in the show?
Yeah. I mean, we have the classic. It's the classic execution. It's the guillotine. It's become sort of, the classic that he goes to. But everything's out here with us. We got the snake. We got this huge 10-foot boa. He's got numerous amounts of costume changes and Dwight Fry. He's got straight jackets. So it's all everything you'd expect or have heard about an Alice Cooper show. We sort of bring it to life every night. And the cool thing is, when I go out and meet people, I do a pre-show, which I'm going to have to do pretty soon because doors are opening here pretty soon. But when I do a pre-show and I meet some people before the show, there's always 1 or 2 people that have never been to an Alice Cooper show, and it's always cool to they're newbies, the Alice Cooper newbie, and at the end of the show, if I see him out by the buses or something, they're like, man, that was so cool, and I always say, yes, now you got to go home and put a jacket on, you're freezing. but exactly. Honestly, the people that follow Alice Cooper, they're kind of like I grew up an Oakland Raider fan. They're like Raider fans. They'll travel, and wow. They support, and they sort of are behind our individual projects as well as Alice. So that's like when Chuck has his band Beasto Blanco, or Tommy puts out a solo album, or I put out a Roxie 77 album, they're always very supportive of that too. So, like I said, our fans are the best, and they're the ones that keep us employed.
That's very cool. I want to go back just to a couple things for a minute. I was looking at some paperwork, and when you were in Electric Angels, you opened for, were on the bill with, opening for Mother Love Bone.
Wow.
How were those guys? I always liked their stuff, and of course, a lot of that turned into Pearl Jam. But
yes.
were they a cool band, a good band live? I never got to see them live.
I'll tell you right now. It's funny that you say Mother Love Bone, because that was the show where Electric Angels got its deal. We got a record deal with Atlantic in New York, and we didn't tour with Mother Love Bone. We played a show with them in New York, so I'll always be thankful. I remember Dogs D'Amour headlined, then Mother Love Bone went on, and then we were the opening band. So basically, the record company guy that signed us, and he came to see the Mother Love Bone, assuming that they were going on first. There was only 2 bands, so he came early and he actually saw us, and he liked what he heard, and that led to our thing. So we were very thankful that we actually got that opening slot. It was good.
Your mother loved one. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
But for tonight, we're Electric Angel.
That's right. Oh, that's funny.
That is awesome, man.
And then I got to ask you.
Cafe. I still remember the gig. I mean, it was Bond Street Cafe.
Oh, wow.
In Lower Greenwich Village. And it was great. Don't look for it. It's not there anymore.
No. I got to ask you about playing with Slash, too. How is the dude, man? I mean, is he as cool to play with as he looks when he's playing?
When you're in his inner circle, I think there's no one cooler. You know, like I said, when you're in that close proximity, he has that sort of, he has that energy that makes you feel like the most important person in the room.
Wow.
You know, even though, and I found that with a lot of, like Alice does the same thing. You know, you can sit down with Alice and have a conversation with him, and he'll make you feel like you're the legendary icon, you know, rock and roll.
Really?
Where, you know, in actuality, he is. So Slash has that ability to do that, and he's actually really well spoken. You know, that's pretty obvious from his interviews and stuff. You can hear him. You can hear him thinking. He says things in such a way that makes for really good sound bites, you know. Playing guitar with him, like I said, I'm not going to get a better guitar teacher than Slash, and to be able to play with him for the 2 or 3 years that we did play together, I thought I was able to learn so much from his style, and sort of, you know, you can grab little bits and bobs here from anybody that you play with, but Slash had such a unique style and a unique sense of timing that it helped me become a better guitar player. So I think that's true with anybody you play with, whether they're more advanced or you're more advanced. It doesn't matter. There's something to learn from everyone you play with, and like I said, day after day, I got to learn from Slash. So it was cool.
Yeah, I think he's got a very unique phrasing style. You know, I really enjoy it.
And here's the thing. You can guarantee he's a Gibson and a Marshall guy.
Yeah, that's true.
That ended up being, at that time, we kind of had these sounds that were coming out a little bit. They were crossing. Some of the tones were crossing because I was, you know, playing my Marshall as well. So we ended up changing to more of an Izzy type setup, in that sense, where I use this at the time. I don't know if they're still owned by Fender, but Sun Model T. I used a Sun Model T amp, and that had a really good contrast with Slash's tone out of his Marshall. So even though we both used, you know, Gibsons, and at the time I was playing a company called GMP that had my own signature guitar model on it, so nice. I was playing
badass guitars.
But I still, you know, always played my Gibson Les Paul, and between the two of us, those two amps really had distinct sounds. Nice. So the cool thing is, when I went back with Alice and did the Brutally Live or Brutal Planet tour, I ended up taking a Marshall head and a Sun head and combining them.
Wow!
And that was my, you know, tone for a couple tours, but then I eventually just switched back to Marshall because, you know what, it works. It's a workahorse.
Totally. It's a mainstay, you know.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, a lot of guys do use multiple amps that complement each other, because a Model T is going to be a little more in the Fender-ish vein, you know, where it's got a little less mid content, a little more top and bottom. And if you get the right amount of drive on it, it sounds great, and it's very complementary to a Marshall, which is a little more mid-heavy.
Kind of round the whole thing out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys sound like you know what you're talking about. You should start a show.
Well, Ryan, I know you've got to run.
We should maybe just think of this as part one, because I love talking to you guys, and hopefully the people listening like listening to it. So let's maybe do another part two someday.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll go delve deeper into gear and playing styles and influences and things like that. You know,
and you have a website, right?
I definitely do. And if anyone wants to find out more about my world and all the different little journeys that I've been on, it's ryanroxie.com. Very easy.
That'll be on the show, and that will live in
perpetuity.
That's right. When it goes over to the archives, and they're always free. So go out there, check it out. Check out Ryan's stuff.
Absolutely.
And I tell you what, it is a very cool contrast between the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, Alice has got to be one of the smartest cats on the planet. Because it's like, I need three people that are,
it just sounds like he's a great guy, too.
And yeah, he's got it going on, man.
I'm telling you, best boss you could ever ask for. So
I'm sure, man.
That's all. How long does the tour go? Do you know?
Yeah.
We're busy up until November. And all I got to say is that be prepared for a really cool Halloween sort of thing happening. You'll hear about it, though.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to check the itinerary. Do you know if you're in the Northeast anytime soon?
Well, we're in the Northeast right now. Albany, New York.
Okay.
Tomorrow, Reading, Pennsylvania.
That's about as close as they're going to get for us, I don't know.
Reading.
Were you guys up in New England?
Baltimore.
We're just outside of Baltimore.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Reading,
hey, we play you next week, man. The Raiders versus Ravens.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. So we're friends now, but...
Oh, it's on. It's
on Sunday.
buddy. That's great. Maybe I'll have to cancel a studio gig tomorrow and write up to Reading.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I just don't want to hear on after Sunday, like, an edited version of me just going,
No, we keep sports completely separate, my friend.
Keep it out. Yeah.
So.
I don't.
Well, if you guys win, then we might have to do something to this show.
Exactly.
Change the name.
That's it.
Yeah. Silver and black, axes and amps.
Oh, my God. All right, Ryan, no, you got to go now. I'm sorry.
Getting kicked off. Huh?
Mr. Roxie, thank you so very much for taking the time. Great interview, and we'll do it again, man. Have a great show.
Thank you guys so much, and thanks to everyone for listening. I'll see you.
Awesome. Right, take care.
Take care.
Have a
Bye.
good one. Bye.
And there you have the story.
Yeah, man.
Cool guy.
Yeah, what a cool dude.
Yeah. And it sounds like what a great gig.
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah.
I said, man, Alice he's definitely a smart guy when it comes to that, because he's got, I think, and I don't want to get in, I don't want to say it, but I will say it a little bit. Nita's attractive. She's an attractive
really?
woman.
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah. But she's also an amazing guitar player. I mean, she has got the shred, the flash. She's got the Ibanez's with the tremolos.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you're going to have three guitar players, they should play three relatively different styles. I mean, of course, within the rock genre.
Yeah.
So you don't want a jazz guy up there, but
yeah. So Ryan and Tommy, they really round out that rock and roll end.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that he knew that he needed that to kind of reel her in. You know what I mean? Because
you couldn't have a night of Alice Cooper songs with the solos being all shred.
Yeah, it'd be blazing, stuff.
It's just not appropriate. I mean, it does need to step out once in a while, because she can and she should.
And the crowd that he's playing to,
absolutely.
It's a little bit different than the crowd that it used to be. But I'm telling you, these guys, though, Ryan and Tommy, they bring it, man. I mean, if you ever see any of their stuff on YouTube, those cats they're tearing it up.
See, they're my kind of players.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and just, Gibsons, Marshalls, whatever, and they're just going at it,
I prefer Gibson and East, but,
I understand.
That's just me. But I actually, just FYI, I actually did get to see the Buxton Bruce lineup.
Really?
The original lineup years ago.
Wow.
When they first started coming out with the guillotine and everything. It was first or second album. I was still up in New Jersey, and I got to see that. I think it was at a place called Roosevelt Park, which I don't know if it still exists.
That was a two-headed guitar monster.
Oh my God!
Let me tell you those guys. If you go back to any of those old albums and you just listen, there is so much going on underneath that music.
And honestly, not a lot of gain.
No,
anything. It was. Gibsons into Marshalls, crank them until you get some.
Yeah, they were probably
grind.
non-master volume stuff.
I'm pretty sure they were 4-input. Yeah. Back in the day when you could crank a 4-input and get it to get really beautifully dirty and sustainy and just crank it and go.
Yeah.
But man, from what I remember, the show was good. It was actually probably great.
Yeah, man. I tell you what,
that's awesome. So full circle for me. You know,
how about that?
Yeah.
So until next time, my friend,
because we're going to do this again
and again and again.
That's right.
I am Mick Marcelino,
and I'm Jeff Bober. Still,
that's right. And we're always saying
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @Amps and Axes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.
I got a good joke though. How do you know if someone's a vegan?
I don't know.
They'll fucking tell you.